This is Portugal. In recent years, the country has experienced significant change in the structure of its economy due to becoming one of the most popular locations for remote workers, typically from high-income countries in the world. Warm sandy beaches, vibrant culture, great internet speeds, and an affordable cost of living have attracted these so-called digital nomads to live in Portugal, who were fully recognised by the government when the digital nomad visa became available in 2022. This new migration pattern into the country is bringing a range of economic benefits, such as increased spending on domestic goods and services, as well as investment into local businesses. Cafes, co-working spaces, and the tourism sector have thrived, particularly in Lisbon, creating new jobs and reinvigorating a national economy, which has trailed behind all other nations in Western Europe ever since it was bailed out of insolvency by the IMF. In fact, digital nomads have been one part of Portugal's wider strategy to become more attractive for tech startups and foreign direct investment in an effort to drive economic growth in the digital era. But the steady inflow of digital nomads has not come without negative consequences. Local residents have faced some of the largest house price and rent increases of all developed economies in recent years as a result of the short-term rental market, designed for people who are blurring the line between tourist and skilled migrant. This is pricing some residents out of the city, unable to compete with the high spending power of digital nomads, which in some cases is even causing civil unrest as the average Portuguese citizen struggles to see the tangible benefits of reshaping their economy to accommodate these migrants, even with their hip new rebranding as digital nomads. So, what factors have driven the rise of digital nomads? What impact is digital nomadism having on the Portuguese economy? And finally, how does this fit into Portugal's wider economic trajectory? Once we've done all of that, we can put Portugal on the Economics Explained leaderboard. As businesses grow, they face more complexity, dispersed teams, and intricate processes. Here at Economics Explained, we know this challenge well. I originally started the channel on my own, but now we have more than 10 team members, and that's why we've teamed up with Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that integrates everything from CRM and accounting to inventory and manufacturing all in one seamless platform. It's like having a digital Swiss Army knife for business. With Odoo, we can keep our operations running smoothly. With its user-friendly interface and customizable features, we can tailor it to our needs. For example, Odoo's CRM lets us manage our sales pipeline, schedule calls, and send quotes with a few clicks, and it even uses AI to score leads, which we find very handy for securing brand deals. Odoo's project management ensures that we're never short of videos in production, and its tasks and activity features keep our production on track. The best part is that you only pick the apps you need, making Odoo flexible and cost-effective. Plus, there's a 14-day free trial with no credit card required, so you can see if it works for you. Click the link below to start your free trial of Odoo and discover how it can transform your business. To fully understand the economic transformation of Portugal in recent years, we need some context first. The last few years have been witness to the rapid normalisation of remote working. Lockdowns and social distancing during the COVID-19 pandemic aggressively challenged the traditional office-based work model, forcing a major structural shift for knowledge-based service sectors across the world. Consequently, working from home was embedded into our economies, with some estimates projecting that it sped up the pre-existing remote working trend by as much as 40 years in some developed countries such as the United States. On average, graduates across all of Europe, the Americas, and Asia now spend 1.1 days per week working from home. Whilst this might not seem like much at face value, the lack of wild variation between countries demonstrates just how widespread and accepted remote working has become on a global scale. And as evidenced by the boom in digital nomads worldwide, remote working does not necessarily mean working from home. Defined by their technologically enabled professional skills and geographic independence, they are an inherently difficult population to generate robust statistics on, which is why there are no concrete estimates on their total population size globally. However, with 17.3 million digital nomads in the USA alone, we know for sure that the total population is significant at a global scale, being larger than 64% of all countries. The increasingly romanticised travel lifestyle, often depicted in sun-soaked Instagram posts and adventurous travel blogs, is obviously a significant factor behind the surge in digital nomads. However, underneath the bohemian allure for adventure lies a more pragmatic motivation for working remotely that can be fully understood in economic terms through a concept called Geoarbitrage. This is defined by the process of earning an income in a strong currency and spending the income in an area with a lower cost of living to maximise spending power. This phenomenon can be explained using the economist's most tasty tool, the Big Mac Index. In the USA, a Big Mac costs $5.69, whilst in South Africa, for example, it's going to set you back 51.9 Rand. Let's say you have $6 and a big appetite. If we were in the USA, you can afford one Big Mac. But if we exchange our $6 for Rand and the market rate of $1 to 19 Rand, then we get 114 Rand. Magically, we have enough money to buy 2 Big Macs in South Africa. This example shows how the cost of living can differ significantly between countries. Now, real macroeconomists don't use the Big Mac Index, but they do use something similar called purchasing power parity, which adjusts economic statistics for the cost of items in a local currency. The Big Mac Index is really just a very simple and easy way to understand PPP adjustments. A digital nomad is perfectly placed to exploit these differences. They can maximise their purchasing power by living in a relatively low-cost country, whilst earning a high income from a high-cost country. Of course, this assumes the barriers to travel between these countries are low. and in recent years they have certainly lowered as nations compete to attract them and their spending power. 54 countries now offer some form of digital nomad visa designed as an easy route to live and work in a foreign country for an extended period without the need to gain permanent residency. Portugal is one of the nations competing to attract new and retain its current population of digital nomads, having launched its own digital visa in 2022. When combining its advantageous coastal position within Western Europe with its relatively low cost of living, Portugal is an attractive proposition for digital nomads who want to avoid deviating from their employer or clientele's time zones too drastically. And with the cost of living being 44% lower in Lisbon compared to London and 58% lower compared to New York, the financial benefits are clear. The estimated 16,000 strong digital nomad population in Lisbon, alongside the large digital nomad communities in other cities throughout the country, demonstrates the strength of these pull factors. So that's all great for the digital nomads that can live large in the European sun, but what's in it for Portugal? The immediate impact of digital nomads is demand-led growth. With a high marginal propensity to consume, their higher incomes are spent on local goods and services in Portugal, such as basic necessities, hospitality, leisure, and accommodation. This increases business income, which drives employment and living standard increases more widely. In the medium term, the steady presence of digital nomads has encouraged business investment. Sectors like tourism, co-working offices, digital infrastructure, and short-term rentals have grown rapidly in recent years, and in the long term, digital nomads are shifting the Portuguese economy towards increased readiness to capitalise from major technological advancements in the 21st century. This all sounds great, but there is a catch. By far the largest problem for Portugal associated with digital nomads is the increased cost of living as a result of demand increases for goods and services. In some areas, local wages can no longer compete with the income of digital nomads in the rental market, creating a fragmented dual economy. Local populations have been priced out of their own cities, particularly in Lisbon, where the median house price increased by 50% from 2019 to 2023. In fact, as a country more generally, Portugal's house price to income ratio has risen at one of the fastest paces in the world since 2015, beaten only by New Zealand and the Czech Republic in this sample of nations. This highlights a long-running issue around the affordability of home ownership for Portuguese residents, who largely blame the boom in short-term letting market as a result of the golden visa investors and multinational tech companies like Airbnb. And whilst digital nomads may not account for the initiation of unaffordable house price growth in Portugal, which preceded the advent of the digital nomad visa, their steady presence has only boosted demand for short-term rentals, further restricting the supply of long-term housing to local residents, which has driven prices higher. In light of this, sudden policy reform has made the strategic position of digital nomads in the eyes of the Portuguese government less clear. Because of concerns for housing affordability for Portuguese residents, the new government has implemented barriers to high-income immigration, and whilst they may not directly affect digital nomads yet, they certainly place them in an insecure and uncertain position. For example, the Golden Visa program, which was first introduced in 2012 during Portugal's financial crisis and subsequent bailout, no longer accepts capital transfers and real estate investments as eligible options to earn visas and eventual citizenship. The non-habitual residency tax scheme is also coming to a close. For now, the digital nomad visa looks set to stay. What we can be sure of, however, is that the digital nomad population is part of a wider trend towards Portugal at least attempting to become a digitally advanced economy fit for the 21st century. Since COVID-19, non-digital employment has declined sharply, whilst digital employment surged at a rate noticeably larger than the rest of the euro area. This increasingly digital labour force, alongside an increasingly well-educated population of young working-age adults, is warranting further investment into digital infrastructure. Digitisation has been further driven by Portugal's advantageous geographic position as the closest point in Europe to both North and South America, which has encouraged growing foreign investment in subsea cable infrastructure as multinational corporations use Portugal as a digital gateway between the continents. This is causing huge spillover benefits for Portugal, as companies are flocking to build high-capacity data centres in the country to benefit from the low latency and high bandwidth that quick access to subsea cables allow. And as the artificial intelligence sector booms and global technology firms hungry for data processing power continue to grow their dominant position in the world economy, Portugal is setting itself up to benefit from the opportunities of the digital age. This is evidenced most notably with the $4.2 billion investment into the large-scale data centre campus in the City of Science by the US investment fund Davidson Kempler and British investment firm Pioneer Point Partners. This is the largest foreign direct investment in Portugal in recent decades. With construction already underway, the data centre is planned to create 1,200 highly qualified jobs. But let's not get carried away just yet. Whilst Portugal's digital transformation is occurring at an impressive rate, it currently ranks average compared to the rest of Europe as a digital economy and society, primarily let down by a slow implementation of its 5G network. Looking to the future, continued development of digital infrastructure and foreign investment in technology gives digital nomads strategic relevance in Portugal as the productive beneficiary of these investments, showcasing Portugal as a global digital hub. Okay, now it's time to put Portugal on the Economics Explained leaderboard. Starting as always with size, Portugal has a GDP of $255 billion US, making it the 47th largest economy in the world, so it gets a 6 out of 10. That spread out over a population of 10.4 million means the country has a GDP per capita of $24,515, roughly double the global average, but only 2/3 of the average of the European Union. Even still, it gives the economy a 7 out of 10. Stability and confidence is not great, not terrible. The country is helped by its membership in the EU and its use of the euro, but it also has relatively high levels of national debt and a general lack of industry diversity. Even still, it gets a 7 out of 10. Growth has been very weak. Between the GFC and the Eurozone crisis and then the global pandemic, the country has seen no real output growth in more than a decade, although it hasn't gone backwards, so it gets a 3 out of 10. Finally, industry. The country is an advanced economy with advanced services, but nothing truly world-leading. It might very well be able to build out its own tech sector by being very accommodating to foreign workers and foreign investment, but that's yet to be seen, so for now it gets a 6 out of 10. Altogether, that gives Portugal an average score of 5.8 out of 10, putting it down here on the leaderboard. A few months ago, we made a video about the challenges of the European Union, which are highly relevant to Portugal in particular. We didn't want to repeat too much here, but you should be able to click to that video on your screen now. Thanks for watching, mate. Bye.